Boruto episode 50, the Chunin exams, the recommendation meeting. So I'm super sleepy. I already was, but this episode was just boring me. Like just going through it, I was like, I gotta watch it because something's gonna happen that's not just a stupid flashback from like the first 5 episodes or something. And it just mostly was like it just legitimately like I was already a little tired and it was just like okay they're talking this full on flashbacks. They didn't even have Kakashi show up. I mean I even mentioned like it just makes sense. That's just an easy throwback. Just have Kakashi be like, hey, I was the one who taught his dad and, both her parents. So it's like, just bring Kakashi in. He was there during the Genin exam. Have other people show up. And it was just like, they're just going through flashbacks. It was like, yeah, this is what Iwabe is like, and Metal, and Denki, and this is what Boruto, Sadara, and Mitsuki are like. And, Shikacho trio. And it's just like, okay. And then Hanabi, of course, shows up late because no one cares about the other 3 girls. But it's just like, all right, some flashbacks here, little moments and this and that, like, oh, the school being destroyed, and, doing some callbacks and talking about Nue first showing up and stuff like that. We did get to see that clip of Konohamaru when he saved everybody. He came in with the Rasengan. Thought that was really cool. I was like, well, that's super sweet. We got a little bit of the super cool fight between Boruto and Nue, so that was cool because they upped the animation for that fight. So I was like, well, that was pretty sweet. Sumini was in like her old costume, which I always thought that costume looked way cooler than anything that she had before, where it's just like it looked like a full ninja costume with the long hair and like the useless sleeves and stuff that were connected to anything. But I always thought that looked like a cool outfit. Plus the tattoo was like, I always thought it looked sweet on her back, like the giant symmetrical tattoo. So I was like, oh, that's cool. See that old costume. See like little snippets here and there, some sweet moves. Mitsuki doing his stuff. They just show like, look how cool he is, just all the moves that he knows. So I was like, all right, that's cool. But for the most part, this episode was so boring. Like the last episode I thought was a problem, and I was so hopeful for this, and it was just like, I mean, like I said, I was already kind of tired, but I was definitely bored. I was like, I did not need a flashback episode. Those are of course always the worst, but it was just like, yeah, I mean, if anything, at least it says we're moving to the next arc because you only get the flashback stuff. I've never seen them do it this late. I was surprised that we even got like it was this much of a flashback episode, like the big recaps and stuff like that. And it was just like, man, okay. Showed off pretty much all the big moments, all the fights. Like I said, they showed off a lot of the random cool stuff that I love, like Boruto, Sada and Mitsuki teaming up when they were doing like the mission like out in the other village. I love that episode. That was a cool episode because of Konohamaru. It was a cool episode because of them actually teaming up and Sadara like dodging a dude's blade using the Sharingan. They showed some of the stuff from the Village Hidden in the Mist arc, which was cool too. But it was just like, it was a flashback episode, and it was like really watching an episode of I mean, this is probably the second closest we've ever had to just watching an episode of the old Naruto series or even Naruto Shippuden, where it's just like, cool, that old thing I saw. I mean, at least at this point, it's only we're only on episode 50, so we've only seen it like maybe twice, depending on what they talk about, here and there. But I was just like, cool flashback episode. So there's really not much to say. The kids were, or not the kids, but Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon, they were kind of learning some new stuff. They didn't know about the Nue thing. They talk about Mitsuki and they make that joke. It's like, oh, you don't know? Like, oh, well, let's move on. It's like, what do you mean? And then they go to Sadara. So I was like, I like that joke. Them getting drunk at the end, I thought was funny. And Shino getting drunk. He doesn't drink because he loses controls and his bugs like exploded out and everything. I was like, okay, that was kind of cool too. That was a silly little moment, nothing big. But honestly, there's really nothing to review. It was just a recap episode. I like what we got to see, especially at the end where they were drinking and stuff, and Konohamaru talking about like I do like when he calls me Big Bro Konohamaru, and it's with Big Bro Naruto, he entrusted me with his child and stuff, and then Hanabi is like, that's my nephew, so they were both being like overprotective, which is why they didn't want him to be in the exam. I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, but also sort of cute. They have that connection to him, so I thought that was cool. But otherwise, there was nothing in this episode. There's nothing to even really talk about. So that's pretty much that's it. I mean, that's it for this episode. It was so much flashback, and that's the funny thing. I felt like, even for a flashback episode, it was a lot of flashback. I felt like there could have at least been a little bit more modern day stuff where they just talk about the dynamics of it and stuff like that. Like they kind of did it with Boruto at the very end, where they actually talked about why they should or should not. Everything else was just like, yeah, they were good here and they were bad here, but they got better, and that's really good. And only when it came to Boruto, which makes sense, main character, Only with him did they actually go through the process of why they don't want him to be there. Everything else is just like, yeah, if they want to do it, then go ahead. They're all prodigies in their own way and stuff, and then that's it. So it was like, I wish they went more through like some individual characters, even if it was just Boruto's team. But it's like, man, I wish they did that a little more. Like I said, brought in Anko, at least Kakashi, because it just makes sense to have him there as the oldest out of all the characters, to be like, well, training his father, training her father as well as her mother, and then testing all three of them, plus all the other students as well during the Genin exams. I think this. So I think that would have made so much sense. Like, even though, ultimately it is up to the actual sensei, but that was kind of the point of them talking through it, is to say, like, well, this is what they did right, this is what they did wrong, and this is how they grew. Have Kakashi there, have Anko there talking about it. And it was just like, felt like it was a huge missed opportunity to have more than just the actual senseis of these different teams. Have like the other older characters who are familiar through multiple generations, have them come in and kind of give their opinion on it as well. I thought would have been much cooler, but it was just a very meh episode, kind of boring. The stuff that we got that was new wasn't really anything entertaining until like the very end when they were drinking. Other than that, it was just them recapping, and they would be like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting." And that was really most of any of the new content was mostly them saying, "I didn't know that thing happened." Cool, like no one cares. So not really a useful episode, and even from filler purposes, it doesn't do anything. But yeah, that was the episode. I am looking forward to the next one, even though of course it's filler again. They do make a cool reference to Himawari's birthday, which of course if you've seen the Boruto movie or you read the manga, why they kind of threw that reference in. So I thought that was cool. But we'll see what happens. It's Boruto's birthday. I just don't know. This episode, like I said, I was already a little bit tired. And this episode is just like, cool. It's boring. So that is the episode. That's what I think of it, at least. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. I guess, what are you looking for in the next episode? It's Boruto's birthday. How do you guys think that's gonna play out? Do you care? Do you not care? I'm excited for it solely based on the fact that this is at least related to the main, a main part of a character. And that's kind of Boruto's whole thing, is that he doesn't like his dad and that they don't really get along. So I'm looking forward to that happening and seeing how they develop that going into, finally getting to the Boruto movie arc. So I'm looking forward to it, just because that was a big part of how Boruto starts in general. Excuse me. When it initially came out, when it was just the movie before the manga started up. So I was like, all right, that was a big part of his story, is that he didn't like his dad. So that's cool. Let's get into that, and let's have that be a main episode. I'm totally fine with that. Hopefully it's done right, because it could suck. And they could go back to what they were doing in the beginning, which I kind of hated, which was there was always this thing where it was like, oh, they have this bonding moment, but something random and stupid happens because they know they can't have them bond before the movie storyline comes up, because that's how they end up bonding, is through some of the stuff that happens there. So I hope they don't do that, where they have these moments where it's like, oh, they got super close and that should have been what solved the problem, but then something dumb happens and Boruto's just like, nah, I still hate my dad. So I hope it isn't like that dumb, oh crap, we can't do this too early thing again, because I felt like they did that a few times in the beginning of the series, where it was like they bond, but then like some stupid little thing is like, oh, I still hate my dad. And it was because they knew they couldn't have them actually bond. We're at episode 50 now. I thought we would have been through the Boruto movie arc, but they couldn't have it happen that early before getting to the Boruto movie stuff, because that's when it's supposed to happen. So who the F knows how this is gonna end up playing out. But I would like to know what you guys are hoping to see, or what you just want to see in general for Boruto's birthday. And like I said, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, if there's really anything to even think about the episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.